Environmental, and I've been working in stormwater and general compliance for about 8 years in Georgia and in states throughout the country. Today, I'm going to be talking with Brittany Tones, who's joining us from Texas, and we're going to talk about the new Texas MSGP. Brittany?
Hey, so I'm Brittany Tones. I've been doing stormwater compliance for the full 15 years of my career. I've seen the MSGP in Texas in this rendition several times. Also work on MSGP and other stormwater expertise throughout the country. But I'm really excited because we have given this permit now, and it's 347 pages. And don't worry, guys, I've read it all, so I've got you covered.
So, Brittany, now that the new permit is in effect, if I was an EHS manager, what do I do now? Is it too late to get started?
Actually, this is the exact perfect time to get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go through your facility and do a walkthrough. Make sure that your outfall locations have not changed. Also want to make sure that your operations have not changed or your inventory of exposed materials. Oftentimes we see that that has happened in the last 5 years. So that's going to be the number one thing that you want to do. Then after you've done that, you want to go ahead and update the SWIP. If you are including any new BMPs or pollution prevention control or measures, you want to go ahead and implement that too, because just remember, you're certifying under penalty of law when you submit that NOI that you have prepared and implemented the SWIP.
Now about my NOI, how do I submit that NOI when it's ready?
So now we're going through the STEER system, and we're pretty much seeing almost 100% electronic submittals at this time. There is still a paper form if you need an electronic waiver, but most people do not. Just an important thing to note that there have been a little bit of changes in STEERs that people are talking about right now, one being the delegation of signatory authority. So previously, under the previous MSGP, we submitted those through a paper letter to TCEQ, and now that actually has to be submitted online. So when I say that the number one thing you want to make sure of is getting that STEERS account in place, that's definitely a place where you need to start. You want to be able to make sure that there aren't any delays that come about that, and also be thinking about who that delegation of signatory authority is for your reports. Remember that there's certain requirements for the NOI, but you can delegate the other reports like DMRs and benchmark exceedances and inspections.
Okay, that's good to know. So now I'm done my facility inspection and I've decided that I need some changes to my SWIP. Where does it go from here? Can you walk us through some of the key deadlines that I need to be aware of if I'm an EHS manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So the permit just came into effective date. It was August 14th. So we are now in that effective stage to where the 2016 MSGP is no longer, and we are operating under the 2021 MSGP. So like I mentioned, the first thing you want to go ahead and do is update that SWIP, certify it, and implement the BMPs. And you want to do that as soon as possible. And then you have 90 days from August 14th to submit the NOI, which is November the 12th, 2021. And that's when you're going to submit the NOI not only to the state through the STEER system, but remember, it also goes to your MS4 operator. Then once you hit submit, you start the 180-day clock for you to do the non-stormwater discharge certification and evaluation. Remember, you haven't done that since 2016. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you're moving forward.
Right. And as a reminder, that's 180 days from when you submit the NOI, not necessarily 180 days from the due date.
Absolutely, that is correct.
So one question I'm hearing a lot about is this signage requirement. I know that Texas and other states are required to have their MSGP based on the federal MSGP, which has this signage requirement, but there was a lot of pushback in Texas about this. What ended up happening with that? Do I need to put signage up at my facilities? Great
news, you don't. So TCEQ went back after receiving a lot of public comments in regards to this exact topic. And so they went back to EPA and said, hey, EPA, can we strike this from the permit? And EPA actually came back and responded that that was okay. So they removed it from the permit. It's no longer a requirement, but I will say, keep in touch with this one because we're already seeing that Louisiana is going through the renewal and they're having a lot of issues with this as well. to where they've gotten a lot of public comments are going back to the EPA. I think this is going to end up being a state by state specific ruling. So definitely keep a pulse on it and just remember that yes, it's an EPA requirement. We're probably going to see that in multiple state permits going forward. We may see this again in 2026, but guess what?
Okay.
In Texas, we don't have to worry about it now.
Well, I'm glad that that was resolved. I know there were a lot of other things out there. What are some of the key operational changes in this permit that we should be aware of right now?
There was definitely some changes on the sector specific requirements in addition to some BMPs. There was a lot of discussion on pre-production plastics. So if that affects your facility, you're definitely going to want to look into that. Some of the monitoring and reporting requirements have changed. Some of the rain gauge requirements have changed.
Right.
So it's a lot of the same things that you were doing before, just with different nuances this time. So it's just important to keep that in mind as you're updating the SWIP. It's not just as simple as going in there and just making a couple of changes. It really is going to be a lot of additional requirements that you have to add into there.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for taking the time to answer some of these key questions. I'm sure a lot of our clients still have some questions. There's a lot of things out there that are new that we want to get some more information on. What's a good way for them to contact you if they'd like some assistance in getting into compliance with this new MSGP?
I know that this is a lot of information to take in. So if you have any additional questions, just click that link below and you can get in contact with me directly. Happy to help you out.
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.